Hello and welcome to Chart of the Day Cafe for Thursday, January 5th, 2017. I want to read our disclaimer quickly. Trading stocks is a high level of risk and viewers should complete their own due diligence on any stock or underlying that they intend to own. 100% of the content of this video and communique is intended for journalistic and educational purposes only. This video and all indicators, strategies, and articles herein should not be construed as investment advice, not making any recommendations, always for your further homework. And so before getting into today's featured chart, we just want to take a look at the markets overall. And for that, we use the Russell Index as our proxy. We want to make sure that the markets overall are in an uptrend and ticking higher before we look at any new featured charts for our watch list. And so for that, we use the IWM, which is the ETF that represents the Russell 2000, and we step back to take a look at it on a larger time frame using the 5-year monthly. We like to get that broader perspective. Regular viewers well know that we were keeping an eye on this channel down here, this blue channel, that the Russell traded within through all of 2014 and then had this little lift up and out in early 15, hit this upper light blue shaded line, and then sold off. But price strength came right back in, pulling us right back into the channel, up and over that channel, and into new highs, up and over this light blue shaded line, and into new highs. So here's the candle for the month of November with volume, taking us up and over that light blue shaded line. December had a little indecision in the candle with a wick at the top and a wick at the bottom. But here we are so far for the month of January, coming into the top of the wick. So we want to be careful there. And we've got this little wedge pattern that we drew in on the smaller time frame. So let's go take a look at that. We'll pull it into the 1-year weekly. And you can see this little wedge pattern that we drew in the other day. So here's our area of support on the Russell. There's the little wedge pattern, and here is that breakout starting to occur. But we want to be aware that we're coming into the top of the range, so we want to see that continue. So let's move it away from the weekly to the monthly, or sorry, the daily, I should say. Same wedge, same area of support on the more minor daily area of support. And then this blue line is the longer term light blue shaded line that we looked at on the monthly chart. So you can see that price is up and over that 8-day EMA. This is the 8-day EMA, this blue line that we use as our guide. When price is up and over that 8-day EMA on the Russell, we are putting new charts forward. As a quick recap to what we talked about in our Tuesday video, we looked at XLY, which is the Consumer Discretionary ETF. And we drew this little wedge pattern in here saying it was going to need to break out, which it has done now. So I, for one, am going to be keeping an eye on this. I want to make sure that the consumer is still doing well. And so I'm going to be keeping an eye on this one in the days and weeks to come. Worth paying attention to today because Kohl's and Macy's both came out with some disappointing news yesterday on their Christmas sales. Maybe it's just because they're still bricks and mortar for the most part, and maybe the consumers moved online, but I just want to keep an eye on this one for sure. Also, in our discussion notes, I wanted to highlight two that I think are worth paying attention to, past picks, I should say. Procter & Gamble looks interesting here. We put it forward somewhere in here, and it's had this little lift. Want to see it continue. And ATVI, which we put forward, I think it was December 13th, and it's had this little lift, and it's starting to make that 3 and 8 cross. So I want to keep an eye on it as well. And so with price on the Russell trading up and over the 8-day EMA on the daily chart, we will be putting a new chart forward this morning. And once again, this one is dual listed. It's Molson Coors Brewing Company, TAP on the New York Stock Exchange, and TPX.B on the Toronto Exchange. For the purposes of our video today, we're going to be looking at it on the US side, TAP. So before I get into the chart, let me tell you a little bit more about this company. I think a lot of us will be familiar with it, Molson Coors Brewing Company. They are a major beer retailer and brewer based in Canada. They were incorporated in 1913. You know what, Chart of the Day Cafe, it's all about value, and TAP has an excellent value score. Second thing I look for is growth, and TAP has a current forecasted earnings growth rate of 22%. Nice. Third thing I look for, can't always get, but in this case it is there. So value and growth are musts. A dividend yield is nice to have, but it's not a must for me. But in this case, it is there. The current dividend yield for TAP is 1.65%. And for those of you interested in PE, the current PE ratio on it is 16.99. So with that, let's get into the chart. We're looking at the 5-year monthly. First thing I want you to note is the beautiful uptrend on the 5-year monthly chart. And the area that we're in right now on the 2-year, more shorter term time frame, this area of support indicated by my orange line, and the lift that we seem to be getting on the shorter term 2-year chart. So month of December we had a doji, which is indecision at support, and so far for the month of January starting to look a little perky here. Let's move it away from the 5-year monthly to the 1-year weekly so we can better see how price is behaving. Same orange line that we saw on the big long-term monthly chart. Haven't moved that line. And you can see the way it's been kind of settling in here, dancing around a little bit, but now looks as though it may want to start lifting. Going to move it away from the weekly to the 3-month daily. There you go. We had this several days of consolidation, and then yesterday we got a fresh 3 and 8 cross. So for those of you that are 3 and 8 cross people, you know, I'm not making any recommendations whatsoever. I do not own TAP. These are just great candidates for our watch list. But love that fresh cross. Going to move it back to our simple study. You know, in preparation for these videos, I like to put other things in front of you, and one of the things we make a habit of looking at is the sector that it's in. So let's go take a look at that. And that sector is consumer staples, XLP. So let's go take a look at that on the longer term time frame. Again, let's go back to the monthly chart. Consumer staples, we're looking at the ETF XLP, much like the TAP chart at this area of support. So long term uptrend on the 5-year monthly, consolidated, and then looks as though it might want to lift here. So we're starting to get that nice look. As well, let's go take a look at PBJ, which is the ETF that is more specific to food and beverage. So you can see the same thing, 5-year uptrend. It's been consolidating sideways for a very long time, but it's starting to look kind of perky in this area. So always want to check the sector that our stock is in as well. In preparation for these videos, I always like to do some extra homework and find other reasons why this company may want to lift off this area of support. And here's one. It's a BNN video interview from November 3rd of 2016. Barry Schwartz, Molson Coors was one of his top picks, so I will include this video with today's Chart of the Day Cafe video. Also, we've been looking at seasonality, and we've been going to equityclock.com for that. Excellent site, really love it, equityclock.com. Here is the seasonal chart for Molson Coors. Has a little bit of weakness in the month of January, but then it starts to lift in February. Now, seasonality is only historic, right? So you never know whether this trend is going to take place this year. But when you're looking at charts, it's nice to have as many things in your favor as you can. So will Molson Coors start to lift a little earlier this year? Perhaps. We'll see. But it's nice to have that seasonal chart in your pocket as well. Also went over to FinViz. I wanted to see whether it was supported by other analysts, and sure enough, it is. You can take a look at these as well, but all pretty positive, and a lot of them are fairly recent. So, you know, I talk about changing stories. So the reason I've had a number of charts that I wanted to put forward today, all of them looking pretty good. But the reason I put Molson Coors in front of you is because the story there is changing. In 2016, they paid $12 billion for Miller Coors. They always had a strategic relationship with Miller Coors, but last year they completed the sale, purchase, I should say, of that company, making Molson Coors, I believe it's the 3rd largest brewer in the world. So that consolidation and that catalyst may be a reason for a changing story under this stock, and a reason that it might lift from this area. So always talk about that changing story. So with that, let's go back and check our boxes, which we like to do. Here are the boxes for TAP. So we looked at the market overall. The IWM is in an uptrend, and we've got price up and over the 8-day EMA on the daily chart. We looked at the sectors that TAP are in, both the consumer staple and food and beverage ETF. Both look perky and lifting. TAP is in a long-term uptrend on the 5-year chart and possibly lifting off support on the 2-year chart. Emphasis on possibly. We never know, right? It's got an excellent value score. It's got a good growth score with a forecasted earnings growth rate of 22%, a current dividend yield of 1.65%. It has a 3 and 8 cross already, so we've got that box checked. I did not check seasonality because it was ticking a little lower in the month of January. I'll let you decide whether you want to check that for yourself, but I'm going to leave it unchecked for now. But as a reminder, that seasonality usually comes in favor in the month of February. And it has that analyst support, the PE of 16.99, and the changing story. They bought Miller Coors. And as a reminder, earnings on February 9th. So with that, I'm putting TAP Molson Coors forward as my chart of the day pick for today, Thursday, January 5th, 2017. A reminder, I just wanted to say, if you like these videos, please subscribe to our channel by hitting the subscribe button on our homepage. And also remember to check the discussion section when you can. At the end of every day, I'm going to go through our past picks, and when they get a fresh 3 and 8 cross, I will endeavor to post them here. So yesterday, at the end of the day, OpenText and ATVI both had fresh 3 and 8 crosses, so worth checking out for sure.